Berenice.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I grew up in Welkom in the Free State, and in my grade 12, we called it standard 10 at that stage. They came to our school and asked who wanted to apply to be an exchange student. And I was like, that sounds fabulous. Let's try this. So I applied and had to go through interviews. I was 17 years old at that stage. I went to school a bit younger, so I was 17 in matric. And that matric is what we call grade 12. And I had to write an essay on why I think I'd be a good ambassador for South Africa. And then I had to go through a panel interview, a panel interview at Flamingo Rotary Club. And then we went to a more national interview. And I think even just that started preparing me for the future. And then we got these jackets. I don't know if you can see it properly. This is my pride and joy. And I'm actually amazed I still fit into it. I can't close it though. And this jacket is 31 years old. That is how long I've had it. And when I was an exchange student, what we do is everywhere you go, you'll see all my patches: San Francisco, Ohio, Wisconsin, everywhere. And on the other arm, and on the back, you'd see this was I was in school in drama there, and I got a letter, as you would always hear for Machina in the movies. They'd say you lettered in it. So it's like you got a bulky, like we would call it. I got this for drama, which is very strange because I never did, I couldn't get into drama at school because I wasn't good enough. But in America, I had an accent that was very interesting for them. So they said I spoke with a deep voice, apparently, and the way we spoke. So because of my accent, I got a part in a play. I was in one part, just part of a crowd, and then in another play, I was actually one of the main actresses, but I had to be the sexy actress because I had this deep voice, apparently, that sounded appropriate for the role, which was very funny because from South Africa, that is not what I would have thought about my voice. But this is my jacket, and I've moved through life. I just got to take it off, it's a little bit tight. I've moved through life, and everywhere this jacket has gone with me. And it used to hang outside in our bar area when we had that at a stage, and now it hangs in our study on the wall because it's something it's the moments I carry with me, and that's how much it's meant to me. That's how much the whole experience meant to me, that I'm still today, when I see it, I get a little tear and think I'm still Berenice Jones on the tag. And so I went over at 17 and a half, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that stage. My mom always thought I was funny. I'd say, I want to be a hotel manager, I want to be a DJ, and I want to be a mechanic. And she's like, you need to pick one, and you need to pick something logical. It makes no sense what you want to do, because I had no clue. I was 17 years old, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then just before we went over, we had career day at school, and Mr. Lombard, who was the senior prosecutor in Welkom, and a team of prosecutors were at the school. And I went through everything, and I just took every form for whatever there was. And back then it was more like doctor, lawyer, secretary. We didn't really have as many choices, it felt like, as now. So I took the form for a prosecutor and filled my name in that I might be interested, and then gave it in and forgot about it. And then I went overseas and had the most amazing year. Okay, I'll be honest, the first 2 months I cried my eyes out. I just wanted to go home. The last 2 months I cried my eyes out because I didn't want to go home. So, so it was really, I grew in. If I look at my friends in that went straight to university or working, they missed out on life. I absolutely believe that the experience of going overseas and meeting people is larger than life sometimes, because at that stage, when I went, was also when Nelson Mandela was released from prison. In the negotiations, we're busy with that. And so there was a lot of news and media, and we were seen as racist, apartheid, you know, this. So here's this white girl from a tiny town in South Africa, in a similar sized town, Elyria in Ohio. So it was like, that was a great experience. I loved going to school. I made amazing friends who I still contact. Julie and Jamie, not so much. She's not very active on Facebook, but Julie is very active, or Julian, as I got told. She doesn't go by Julie anymore. Very active, and I still I had 3 host families. The middle host family is, it's like the sister you don't talk about, so we don't talk about that family. But Jim and Sue were my first family, and Phil and Jean Schaefer, who have sadly both passed, were my third family. And I stayed with them almost 5 months at each of the families. And it was like being in a house. Their children, and that are still on my Facebook, I still watch what they're doing and live their life with them. So it's something you carry on further. And being an exchange student, when you go on holiday and you travel, you go to Spain, you go to Barcelona, you go see all the standard museums and history, and you eat at the best restaurant, or you go to this, because you don't really know the people. Being an exchange student, you get to know the people. You get to live in a community, you get to shovel snow, rake leaves, clean screens to put them on in the summer. And both Jim and Sue and Jean and Phil lived with backyards filled with trees. I've never seen so many trees in my life before. So every so often when the seasons were changing, I would have to rake leaves, which is not something I was used to in South Africa, because we don't really have that kind of environment. Small things that caught me were like Tyler, Jim and Sue's youngest son, was I think just a year younger than I am. And one day we left the keys to the house at home, and Sue left the house open so that we could get in the whole day. Now, Michi will know that is something that doesn't ever happen in South Africa, because if you leave your house open, it'll be gone. I mean, we have high fences, we have remote gates to get in, we have bars on our windows, bars on our doors, alarm systems, big dogs. You've got to do, so coming there, this little, living in that kind of community, and then suddenly living in a place where you can leave the door open. It was crazy, but an eye-opener to see how things can be. So going over as an exchange student gave me a love for learning about people. I still am. I research everything and I Google everything, and I want to know more. I want to know what's going on in the world. I want to know, and when I hear things about America, it makes me feel closer and more understanding. I can hear about Australia, but I don't really understand the setup there. But knowing the States, I feel like I understand it a little bit more. And that's when you come now in grown-up life, you understand people better, because you understand everybody comes from a different background. Everybody's got different issues and things that they like. And then as well, getting together with all the exchange students from around the world, because we had a 3-week bus tour in the June, July holidays, where all the exchange students in a certain area, we were 3 bus loads of exchange students. I think we were 200, if I remember correctly. And we traveled from Ohio all the way to California and back in 3 weeks. Now, taking South Africa is like as big as Ohio about, and Wisconsin, that small area. America is enormous, but we saw everything from the Grand Canyon to Reno to Los Angeles, Hollywood, it was wonderful. So I got that experience, but getting to meet students from Brazil, I would never have known anybody from Brazil. I would never have met anybody from Germany, from, we were lots, Australia, England. I think there were all 35 countries represented there. And that again taught me how to work with different people. But the biggest thing that happened to me there, except for all the love and all the things I learned, is one of the Rotarians, and I've been struggling to remember his name, was the district attorney. I think Jim and Sue will be able to help me with his name.
Was it Greg White?
Yes, he actually took me to work with him one day. Yeah. And at that stage, I'd said I had put my name up to be a prosecutor, and he was basically the prosecutor there. And I went to work with him that day, I think actually 2 days. And he took me in with the court cases, and not the jury court cases like we see on TV. It was a normal run-of-the-day court sittings, and that, as it's actually done there, not what we see on TV. And I actually remember the case it was very sad actually, but it still sticks in my mind. It was a mom and a dad who had a baby and didn't want it, and put it in a plastic bag and thrown it off a bridge. And it was so traumatic, but so exciting at the same time, that I knew there and then what I wanted to do. And if it hadn't been for that experience there, I would not be where I am today. Because except learning to work with other people, getting that experience, that proper exposure to something like that, with somebody who was brilliant in what he did, I also had to do a lot of presentations at Rotary clubs and all kinds of different places. And it taught me to talk on my feet. It taught me to think, because I got lots of strange questions sometimes, or complicated questions. I mean, at school one day, remember, this is when apartheid was being dismantled, if I could say that. Somebody came up to me and asked me, yeah, I'm from South Africa. I'd probably never date a Black person. And I was quite aghast, and I was like, because I never actually thought about it. I was so young. And I said, would you date someone just because they are color, or do you date someone because you love them? Then it's irrelevant. And when I finished that, I was like, so I was quite impressed with my answer. It wasn't like, oh, that's insulting, or I'm feeling, and the girl actually looked at me and she was like floored. She couldn't give me a comeback. She turned around and she walked away. And that's when I realized I could think on my feet. It started molding me into this person that I became. It started teaching me not to be insulted by things, not to be shocked, not to rather to handle it. And I loved that. And while I was still overseas, the application for prosecutor came out to go to college on a full bursary and then study and work. And it was filled in, and I got it. And when I came back, I landed in South Africa, and 5 days later started at the magistrate's office in Welkom. So my year did that for me. And then, but also one thing I noticed when I came back, my friends in that had gone to university, not all of them, but there were quite a handful that hadn't been ready for the adult of being away from home, having freedom. And a lot of them dropped out, or they had to redo their first year because they hadn't grown up enough to understand the world and to cope with a lot of things that they needed to cope with. Alcohol was maybe way much easier and too much fun, skipping class, all those kind of things. When I came back, I went to university. Well, we studied through Justice College in Unisa, and I was ready for it. I was ready to, yeah, played hard and I work hard, but I knew how to do the balance. And that was irreplaceable. And then having friends across the world that are in your heart forever. Now, David, not having gone to America, and I say this lightheartedly, was always like, oh, the Americans, they're so arrogant and they want to know everything, because that's what we see on TV. You know, they think they're the bosses of the world. Once he had come with me and had the opportunity to stay with Jim and Sue, his entire opinion changed, because he'd now met people on a one-to-one. We toured a lot and we've gone overseas, but it's always as a tourist. So you never get to know the people. You're a tourist, and that's how you get treated. And you go to the fancy places because his company was paying. But living with Jim and Sue for just that week was totally different for him. So my experience 30 years ago gave him an experience in 1 week that changed his life and mindset as well. Auntie Jean, after Uncle Philip died, came to visit me in South Africa. And then I had the opportunity in Bloemfontein to take her everywhere again and to show her where I live and that. And again, and I got to see her again before she died, which was for me, when I think about, I actually saw a picture of her the other day, I think, because Facebook still throws these things out. And I was so blessed that I had been able to now see Auntie Jean and Jim and Sue again before, because the distance is far. It's expensive for us, you know, and it's there, and it's still, like I say, I still talk about it. You know, we'll know. It often will come up, oh, when I was an exchange student, I did this. Okay, there's lots of naughty things I also did that I don't talk about. And that we don't put out there in public. But you know what? It was fun because I had made friends. And then Facebook was all the more on the go. And since then, thank goodness to Facebook, we've never lost contact. And now we've got WhatsApp, and now we've got even Zoom call and Teams, whatever you want to. So you make friends for life. And I'm telling you, that's one of my biggest honors to have done the program. And then, like I say, in my career, it just made me, I can talk a lot. and I'm not shy, and I don't get embarrassed, because I had been exposed to stuff. And when I walked into my job, I'll never forget, my boss was very Afrikaans. And he said, this is an Afrikaans office and you will speak Afrikaans. And I'm not going to speak Afrikaans, I'm English. And then I realized, okay, everything is Afrikaans. It's going to be easier to speak in Afrikaans at that stage. Now everything's English in the course. But it gave me the self-confidence to hit the ground running, to know how to talk to grown-ups, if I can say that, because magistrates were older. I was young. I started there at 19, working in the what we call the cash hall, where all the administration gets done. Then I had to suddenly go to Pretoria and live on my own there. And I knew how to take care of myself. I knew how to make sure that I didn't drink myself into a stupor and mix class, that I didn't just bunk. We weren't allowed to bunk. If we bunked, because we were being paid to study. So, but it gave me the responsibility, because I'd been there, done that, and I could enjoy life. And I had a story to tell that's uniquely mine. And that's why this program, it's terrible that you two can't be in each other's presence. But the fact that you can even just talk to each other and get to know each other is going to grow, because one day either of you is going to, you might not even meet in America or South Africa. You could both be going to Europe and doing something and say, let's meet up and spend a couple of days together, because it's a friendship that continues. And what happened then was, when Erin, my daughter, finished grade 12, I said she must go overseas. And David was a little bit against it, because he didn't want his little girl going away. And she started studying. After the first year, she wasn't happy with what she's studying. I said she needs to go overseas. So she went and au paired, because I knew what I had gone through and how much I'd enjoyed it. Now, hers was a bit different, was an au pair, but she went to Hawaii for a year. I mean, what could be better than that? Most people in America have never been to Hawaii. So she got to go to Hawaii, and I could say to David, I know how valuable this experience is. When she came back from Hawaii, she didn't know what she wanted to do. She studied graphic design for a year. When she came back from Hawaii, she knew what she wanted to do, and she studied psychology. She's finished her degree now. She's now on the 1st of May going to Thailand to give English while she does her honors and masters to become a psychologist, because she had the experience of the world is bigger than just this. And I look at her friends. She was saying to me the other day, Mom, all my friends are married or pregnant. They're 23. The world's too big to be doing this for me now and for her. And I said to her, then don't do it. Go overseas, go get, so she's going to go to Thailand for a certain time. And then she's going to she wants to go to Russia, and she wants to go to Spain. And I'm like, you go, fly, little bird, because I knew what a valuable experience it is. So I don't know how much, nobody told me how much time I have, and I can talk all night. So I don't know. There's any questions?
Share.
One thing I can say, just as Dave